till the time I was in final year, there were 50,000 installs for that app.
Wow.
Yeah, and in result times, I used to earn a lot because the traffic was heavy. Like there was a lot of traffic in
Hmm.
the result times and basically main notification times on that app. So it also gave me some kind of revenue at that time. When I
Hey Shreyash, welcome to my channel. Thanks for accepting the invite. Hey all viewers, welcome to my channel to you all as well. Today I have with me Shreyas Patil, who is a GDE, who is junior than me, but his contents give me imposter syndrome. He is a really great engineer. He talks about Jetpack Compose, performance, architecture a lot. He has lots of open source contributions on Jetpack Compose. So please check them out if you haven't already. And yeah, let's get started. Hi, Shesh.
Yeah, Harivu, great.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for coming to my channel for this interview. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And yeah, let's get started. So I gave our viewers a brief introduction. Would you like to take it forward and like brief about your career a little bit?
sure. Yeah, cool. First of all, thanks for inviting me here as well. Cool. So I'm Shreyas Patil, and currently I'm working as a senior software engineer for Android at Paytm. And apart from that, I am also a Google developer expert for Android category. And that's all about.
Cool. So how did your career start? Where did you studied and how did you got your first job? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, cool. So it all started when I was in diploma actually. So after 10th, I went to diploma in information technology IT. And from the first year of IT, you know, I guess you all know diploma already, right? Since I know,
Yeah.
I'm aware that you also did diploma.
Yeah.
Also in first year, like we learn C, C++, all these kind of languages.
Yes.
But I was not getting interest in that programs like Fibonacci series and all
Hmm.
basically that stuff. I wanted to build something real world, like for example building something which can be helpful in real world, like people and all, because at the time
Yeah.
mobile thing was kind of new thing, and
Hmm.
we were used to with WhatsApp and apps like that. So I was
Yeah.
curious about how to build such apps so that people can use it. So side by side while learning C and C++, I directly started learning Android without even proper
Wow.
knowledge of Java. So I was
That's
just
impressive.
okay. So it is time of 2015. Uh,
Okay.
and so how I used to do Android, I just used to remember syntax. Okay, if I have to show a toast, this is the method toast dot make text, blah blah blah, three parameters and dot show method.
Mhm.
I was not even aware about Java concept, like what is the method override, what is polymorphism, and etc. I was not interested in that stuff at that time. I was just interested in building Android apps. So I just used to remember syntax. Okay, how to launch a separate activity, intent, start activity, etc. Okay, but later on in diploma, I started learning Java as well. But okay, the Java concepts were helpful in actually taking Android decisions. So I learned that okay, basics are necessary. We cannot directly jump in these things without knowing basics. So
Mhm.
I realized my mistakes, and while doing that, I started building my apps as well and
Mhm.
publishing so my first app was very basic. It was just C programming course app,
Mhm.
and like in which you can just learn basics of C programming, and you can see programs basically, how you can write programs in C and their output. So it was just a static app, and I published it on Play Store in 2016, May 2016. And till now, that application has around 6 lakh installs. It is still live on
Wow.
Play Store. Yeah.
Wow.
So it also started a passive earning for me
Mhm.
from student age, and it gave me motivation that I should build more apps. Then I started building apps for my college board, basically university. I mean, So for
Mhm.
example, like how our university websites are, right?
Yeah.
Whenever something happens, we need to check manually, like if result is announced or if timetable is there or
Mhm.
not, right? There is no notification system. So I
Yeah.
built an official app for my university for diploma, which was MSBT. And what I did is I used to manage that admin app. Like if result is announced,
Mhm.
so people, students will directly get notification in their app, like result is announced,
Mhm.
timetable is announced, hall tickets, and etc. And I built trust in Maharashtra state basically. Like a lot of people downloaded that app. Till the time I was in final year, there were 50,000 installs for that app.
Wow.
Yeah, and in result times, I used to earn a lot because traffic was heavy. Like there was a lot of traffic in the
Mhm.
result times and basically main notification times on that app. So it also gave me some kind of revenue at that time. When I passed out, I discontinued that app,
Mhm.
and after diploma, and okay, in that period, I developed a lot of applications. These were just kind of small college projects and all. But then in engineering, I went to Pune
Mhm.
for Bachelor of Engineering. And then in Pune, I developed a similar kind of application, but enhanced version, uh, same as Diploma one, but with a lot of features like discussion. Students can do discussions and all in that app.
Okay.
Uh, in
So now you have daily active users as well.
correct, correct. So
Okay.
same I developed for Pune University, and Pune University
Mhm.
also adopted that app, and they found it very helpful.
Okay. They made
And
it
all
official.
no, like unofficial only. It was
Okay.
offline. So Pune University website is still lacking behind my diploma. Like, diploma website was still advanced than Pune website. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah. So all the whatever I did so far, it was just in
Mhm.
Firebase free plan or occasionally
Mhm.
Firebase pay as you go plan. Because
Mhm.
sometimes when traffic was there, I used to purchase the Firebase plan because then Firebase runs out of quota and all these things.
Mhm. Yeah.
So same I did for Pune University, and like I always built such applications, and I learned Android while doing like developing applications.
Hmm.
Like I never followed any particular roadmap or any tutorial series for learning Android. Basically, what
Mhm.
my methodology is always like peak idea and learn Android or learn any technology while doing that project or doing that thing. For example,
Got it.
I was not aware of Kotlin. I guess in
Mhm.
2018 or 17, Kotlin announced as an official programming language, right?
17. Yeah. Yeah.
17, correct. So 2018, when I was about to build that Pune University application,
Mhm.
unofficial one, okay, my aim was to just learn Kotlin.
Okay.
So just want to learn Kotlin, and okay, I said I will learn Kotlin while developing this app. So what happens
Mhm.
in this methodology? Like you also end up learning programming language, and at the end product is also developed, which is never
Yes.
waste basically.
Yeah.
So Pune University application I just built for learning Kotlin, but ultimately it ended up being a product. So
Mhm.
I published this, then later I involved in open source, writing articles, and COVID started basically, and I
Mhm.
was still third year student. And so in 2020 when COVID started, you might know that there is a open source repository of mine, Foodium.
Yes. Yes.
So when I published that, I got internship like opportunity after that. Like a lot of
Mhm.
CEOs of companies reached, and I picked some startup company at that time.
Mhm.
It was a Scale Real Technologies Private Limited based out of Pune. So I joined it as a intern,
Mhm.
and at the time I was a third year student. And then for a year, I did internship there. I learned so basically in that internship I did everything. I did backend, I did mobile, front end little
Mhm.
bit, everything
Yeah.
like
Makes
Python,
sense.
JavaScript. Yeah, because it was a startup and learned everything basically, which
Yeah.
helped me to grow.
I think we discussed about it when you were applying for Paytm, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Correct.
I still tell people a lot that I on my last working day at Paytm Insider, I took interview of Shreyas. I told him today is last working day, and he told me I am joining for you. So yeah, that's a missed opportunity for me as well, and I still keep looking forward to working with you. Another chance to working with you. So yeah, I hope I will get that opportunity in future.
Yeah, let's see. Cool.
Yeah, I keep bothering you about it. Okay. So my next question is uh, when you initially start, you have been blogging and creating open source for a long time, right?
Right, right.
And when you initially started blogging and open source contributions, it was okay-ish, right? It was not super impressive, which it is now. All your blogs and all your open source code base are super impressive now. Even like as I said earlier, gives me imposter syndrome, right? And that doesn't happen a lot for me. There are only handful few uh, whose work gives me imposter syndrome. So yeah, how did you get so good at all those things?
Okay, so let me start with like how I started open source because open source
Mhm,
helped me to write blogs. So let's start with open source.
okay.
So till the time I was in second year of engineering, I was not even aware what GitHub is.
Okay.
Like coming from rural area, like Jalgaon is not
Uh,
that much advanced area. But when I came to
yeah.
Pune, like it was life changing for me because
Mhm,
like community involvement and all everything happened. So till the time of second year, I was not aware about GitHub. Then I was aware of GitHub, something like let's say in Android we usually get issues, right? So
uh-huh,
we end up searching something on Google, and some solutions are in GitHub issues.
yeah.
So in that sense, I was aware about GitHub. Then suddenly something by something I learned, okay, GitHub is something that where some open source projects are hosted, and even big projects
Mhm,
like TensorFlow, Flutter, or like big Telegram, such as source code of such apps are already there on
mhm,
GitHub. So I learned, okay, so GitHub is amazing. Like Google do all their projects on open source. Some of them are GitHub, like for example, Firebase
yeah.
SDK. So
Mhm,
I started learning about Git and GitHub, and it felt very amazing to me because before GitHub, let's say if we are maintaining a project, what we used to do, we create multiple copies of project with
yeah.
final date and all, right?
Mhm,
We save our project files as a zip with
yeah.
some tag. Okay, this is final, final one, final two. We don't basically version control it.
Yeah.
Then GitHub was very fascinating. I started using Git in my college projects. I taught
Mhm,
it to my friends and all. So they also started using GitHub. So what happened then? As I said earlier, I was building that Pune University app.
mhm.
Then in Pune University app, there was a use. I was using that Firestore database, Cloud Firestore. But
Okay.
in some sense, for some feature, I need to use Firebase real-time database with pagination.
Mhm,
Then I looked into Firebase UI SDK at
mhm,
GitHub, and I read their documentation, and I found that Firebase SDK is not having real-time database pagination API for Android.
mhm. Yeah.
Then I then I did what? I went to their repository and saw their code for Firestore database. Firestore pagination API was already there, but Fire
Mhm,
real-time database it was missing.
yeah.
Okay, I decided at that time that I would contribute this to Firebase.
Mhm,
So I learned how to do pagination in Android. At the time, paging one was there in
yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
Paging one API. So I learned how to do use paging one API and how Firebase did it for Firestore database. Then
Mhm,
I created my own repository for it is a library basically. It was an Android library for Firebase real-time database pagination.
okay.
I published it on my own GitHub account. Then I copied that link and created an issue in Firebase SDK. Hey, that I have
Mhm,
this. I have referred your style of writing code and all. Can I
mhm.
contribute the same to your Firebase official repository? Like I was not aware about standard and how to communicate basically
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
it was first time for me. And I never earlier contributed to any small or big organization.
Mhm,
So okay, so Sam Stern was the that Googler, I guess, in Firebase at that time.
mhm.
So he replied, "Okay, this looks good. Please raise your pull request against version like XYZ branch." Then
Uh-huh.
I raised my first pull request against
Okay.
Firebase SDK.
Okay.
First pull request of my life. Cool. So first pull request was like amazing. I got around 20 plus comments. Comments are
Okay.
like they are so that first contribution I learned a lot, like how Googlers
Mhm,
work, how they think of code. Let's say
mhm.
what how are comments on my code? Like let's say if we write if, and
Mm-hmm.
right after if I give bracket, it is
Mm-hmm.
basically not good. What you can say, formatting of code. They say
Okay.
after if there should be a space, then bracket.
Yes.
Like there are
Yeah.
comments like this on my PR, like okay,
Mm-hmm.
do this reformatting and all, use this linter.
Mm-hmm.
I did
Mm-hmm.
that's all, and there were a lot of comments. I resolved all these comments and around, and this was fascinating actually. So I guess Firebase team works in US team, I guess.
Yes.
So they used to review PRs on midnight 3 India standard time.
Mm-hmm.
So sometime I was very excited that I used to wake up with an alarm of 3 a.m. morning to just to check what they have commented so that I can reply instantly and I can get feedback instantly. Otherwise, what used to
Okay.
happen, I used to comment on daytime and they used
Uh-huh.
to reply on nighttime. So there was a lot of communication gap. So I was
Yes.
very fascinating just because it was my first pull request. So I used to wake up early in that time. And within a week, I solved all their problems. And finally, they
Mm-hmm.
merged my PR in one of the branch. And whenever they released version, they gave shout out to me on the release. So I felt very awesome because it was
Yeah.
my first
Yeah.
contribution in that too in Google Firebase SDK.
Yeah. It like fast contribution, and that too is a big thing.
Yes, yes.
Right.
So then, while extensively using that SDK, I found
Uh-huh.
more 7.6 issues in Firestore
Okay.
or real-time data store. So I created issues. I created pull requests for the same issues.
Wow.
So like parallelly, I guess I opened around nine or I guess 8 or 9 pull requests against Firebase
Mm-hmm.
SDK at a time. So it was fascinating. Then what I thought, okay, I should write a blogs. So
Mm-hmm.
my initial blogs, if you look, they are all about not about like some opinions or some methodologies.
Mm-hmm.
My early blogs are like usage of APIs. For example, I
Yes.
created Firebase APIs,
Yeah.
real pagination API. I wrote how to do Firebase pagination API.
Mm-hmm.
Then after this, I thought, okay, let's start some of my own projects.
Mm-hmm.
So next, I created material dialog, something library.
Mm-hmm.
So material dialog library is something like so I was using Google Files app, and Google Files app when you delete some file, that animation was very cool with dialog, like
Yeah.
there is some lottie animation and very cool text and 2 buttons.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought let's recreate this so that people can use same kind of animation in their apps. So I
Mm-hmm.
created that library and published it on Bintray. At that time, Bintray was like very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Then I used to do publish projects, and I used to write blogs on the same published projects. Like how can you use my blog?
Mm-hmm.
So my initial blogs were like just a documentation of how to use my open source library. Then in 2019, I created a easy UPI payment library,
Mm-hmm.
which was like just a UPI payment library with an intent base. Like you can just select amount and enter any app, PhonePe, Paytm, GPay, anything, and you can perform payment. And I wrote a blog on this. So it was like publish project and write a blog. Then
Okay.
COVID started after that, and I started. Okay, when COVID started, it gave me a lot of time to learn
Mm-hmm.
things because college was not there, and it gave me a lot of time to learn things, how they work. Then I obviously side by side I was also reading your blogs and some
Okay.
good community, like Jake Walton,
Uh-huh.
Ivanshu, like he was very active at that time.
Yeah.
Mindocs and all. Actually, Mindocs was great at that time, I would say, in
Mm-hmm.
my time.
Yes.
So yeah, it gave me some motivation that I should write more blogs. And at the time of my first blog, uh, my communication was not that good. Like even if you read my that first blog,
Yes. Yes.
you will
That's
find
what
a
I
lot of
said, right? So your initial blog, see, uh, I always keep reading whenever I come across any blogs or anything. And your first blogs, topics were not bad, right? But how you presented was not bad. It was okay.
okay,
It
okay, yeah.
was
Even I
okay.
admit that. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, continue. Now it's hell and
correct,
heaven.
correct. Even at that time, my English was not that good. I used to
Okay.
frame sentences in very basic manner. Even now, it is not good, but better than that time because because it is continuous learning, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
keep learning things. So But yeah, I used to get a good feedback that sometimes I used to get message on Twitter, hey, like I
Mm-hmm.
was struggling with this and your blog came out, so it helped
Mm-hmm.
me, thank you and all. So actually, this messages like this basically motivated me to write more blogs. Then I started
Yeah,
writing
yeah.
some opinionated blogs. For example, my first opinionated blog was on dependency injection, like how can one
Mm-hmm.
easily learn that. And then I don't know like how I suddenly converted into such a regular blogger that I can write blogs on some general technological things. So
Okay.
that's how I started open source and blogging.
That's great. I remember reading one of your opinionated blogs about state management and view models, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's when I first noticed the difference that okay, he's a pro at this now. So yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
that
You,
always fascinated me, right? So if you look at my how I uh, did over the years, I don't see much improvement in my writing style or content quality. Like obviously some improvements are there, but yeah, it's very slow and gradual. But when I look at yours, it's like a sudden improvement. So yeah, like over a very short period of time, you learned a lot, and it reflects, right?
yeah,
So yeah, that's a very good thing. Like
yeah.
so,
Thank you.
oh
Like it happens in community, I believe. Like when you are connected with a lot of people, like for example,
yeah,
I'm connected with you and other folks who are GDE and some other
mhm,
folks.
yeah,
So I guess it is automatic. It automatically happens.
yeah. So now you talked about community. So what are community stuff you are involved in nowadays? So I already know you write blogs. We already know you speak. So what other things do you do?
Yeah. Apart from open source, I usually speaks at community events like IO
Mm-hmm,
Extended, DevFest, and some other GDC events. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
So at the start of the COVID, actually, I was not even good at speaking. Like the way I am speaking right now, I wouldn't even speak at this level. So it was a
okay.
challenge for me at that time.
Mm-hmm,
So when COVID started, I started speaking at some small events like GDC
mm-hmm,
events and all. So they started me inviting, and okay, I used to accept it as a challenge, and it also
mm-hmm,
helped me to improve my communication. Okay, let's come to
mm-hmm,
real question. So yeah, then I start when I started speaking, then now I'm increasing my speaking at community events. I'm not saying like I'm really doing good right now because whenever any community event is there, I traveling is my issue. Like from my place, I
yeah.
it is very hard, but I'm still trying to cover most of the areas.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, apart from that, I just want to focus on speaking right now in the terms of community events, and soon, like maybe year or next year or next 2 years, I also want to land a international talk in such like DroidCon or something like that. I
I'm
just wish.
sure if you submit the CFP, you will easily be selected. So yeah, that's depends on where you submit the CFP.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah. I also want to get confidence on that, but yeah, I have confidence right now, but just thinking like what I should talk on and what not.
Sure. Uh, so yeah. Next question is about. I think you already answered this question earlier. So you are an Android engineer, right? But I have seen how good you are in backend, especially when we were working for Paytm Tech, right? That got stopped due to my issues at my side. A lot of things happened over that period of time. So yeah, now I saw firsthand from your commits and all when you are working on the backend service for Present Tech that how good you are at backend and cater. So being an Android engineer, how did you get so good?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I was earlier in startup company, Scale Rail
Mhm.
Technology. So I was working extensively on a Kotlin like JVM based microservices, and
Okay.
I was basically doing engineering of that, and it was basically US based startup.
Mm-hmm.
I was contributing to like basically outsourcing from this
Mm-hmm.
to there. And yeah, it helped me to get insights on how backend systems should work, like how to use AWS and all services.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned everything there. And
Okay.
apart from that, I also got involved like so on Twitter, I also follow some like backend developers and all
Mm-hmm.
who really actively post things. So this also helped me to um, stay updated with backend trends as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
just like Android, backend is also very vast. Like there are a lot of
Yeah.
separate terminals there, like Redis, then caching layer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
uh, load balancing. Like DevOps and backend are basically very vast there too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still beginner, I would say, in backend, not that much advanced. But yeah, given a system, now I have a ability that I can build a basic backend system for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can see my project Noticati,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
on GitHub. So the aim was just to Noticati was just to demonstrate how can you build a whole end-to-end application with the help of Kotlin. Like Kotlin as a
Mm-hmm.
backend and Kotlin for a front end.
Yeah.
So and backend is not that hard actually. If you get concept, like everything is easy in backend. At least for, up like in Android there are different behaviors. When you develop
Yeah.
apps, you will need to check app on Samsung. You will need to check app on all kind of devices. But
Yeah.
backend is not like that. If it is working, then it will work for everyone. So
Yeah.
in that sense, backend is very easy to get grasp. But yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
optimizations and you in backend we always need to think of scale, like how
Yeah.
uh like O of one really matters there.
Yes. Yes.
So
I would not say exactly O of ones in DSA term, but yeah, performance and how
performance, yeah,
many loops you create, how many database queries you create, all that matters.
correct, correct.
In my opinion, that matters in front-end Android application as well, especially when you have a lot of users. But yeah, in backend, it matters more.
Yeah, yeah,
So
agree.
yeah, you have learned a lot of technologies over the years, and you got very good at those. So how do you learn technologies?
Okay.
Or if a think of it like a student or a beginner asking you how to learn new technologies.
Yeah. So even as I said, like I started it from 2015, and
Mm-hmm.
at that time, so my like limitation for me was very limited internet connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
With so at that time, Geo was not there, obviously,
Yeah.
and I even don't have had my own personal phone with data connectivity. I used to use data from my parents,
Okay.
and they also had like 1 GB per month plan, BSNL
Mm-hmm.
plan. And at that time, financial condition was not that much good as it is right
Yeah.
now. So
Uh,
we only had one. Okay, my parents, like mother, father, had my like data plan, 1 GB per month, and I
mm-hmm.
used to get their hotspot on so that I can learn things. So videos was
Okay.
definitely not a option for me because videos
Mm-hmm.
can like spoil your data
Yeah.
in just a day. So so whatever I used to learn, I always used to refer official documentation. For example,
Mm-hmm.
Android, I always referred developer.android.com, minddocs.com, or androidhive.com. And at the time, there were some good Android resources, textual
Yeah.
based. So I always refer text based resources.
Yeah.
And then unofficial resources are like, let's say, your blogs or Himanshu's
Mm-hmm.
blogs,
Mm-hmm.
some Jake Walton blogs. And
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of good people at the time, Android community, right? Like there were a lot of blogs on Minddocs,
Yeah.
Amit Shekhar.
Yeah.
So text-based resources I always refer, and for Android and for then even from in between I learned HTML as well, like web development, JavaScript, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then W3 Schools was a great resource, or Mozilla
Mm-hmm.
MDN Docs. MDN Docs is
Yeah.
really nice for entry
Yes.
level, not even entry level. I guess for everyone it is a great for all
Mm-hmm.
terminologies. Then for backend I guess in general, like you can even get uh, solutions in Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
And then single source of truth was for text resources, and then
Mm-hmm.
trying out projects was another thing. As I said earlier, I
Great.
always so to learn something, I always created a project for it, and whatever project I created, I always published it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just always thought of a product first, and then applying the tech so that I can learn tech as well. So
That's
product.
great. And mentioning of Android Hive brings back memories for me. So me and Ravi Tamada worked together on few of the blogs there. Like I wrote few blogs there and worked with Ravi Tamada. He used to be the source of learning Android back then for a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? AndroidHive.info was the most famous Android
Hmm.
learning website back then, and MindDocs as well. Amit Shekhar. Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, these brings back memories.
Yeah, yeah. And apart from that, obviously, I was active on LinkedIn as well, LinkedIn and Twitter as well. So
Uh-huh.
I used to connect with experts around at a time. If you remember, I
Mhm.
also pinged you sometime in between
Yes,
for
yes, we discussed.
correct, correct.
Uh,
So like that, I used to connect with people like you and experts. I used to, if I had some doubts, I
mhm.
used to ask, and
Yeah,
that's the way I am giving it back right now.
that's really good. I think you and Himanshu discussed a lot in those days, right? Uh, so yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's come to Android focused things.
Mhm.
So uh, how did you become good at architecture, or like how to become good at system design and architecture?
Okay, so let's talk about architecture first. So you
Mhm.
know what happens nowadays? Like architecture is on very hype right now. Like even if you
Yeah,
open your Twitter or LinkedIn, like people are just criticizing or just talking about architecture, which gives a
I won't say it's now. I
Hmm.
think of it as ever
No, no.
evolving
Yeah,
thing,
I'm
right?
talking about a newcomer, for example. Let's say there is a new
Uh-huh.
Android developer, then he will
Yeah.
always be like in that syndrome just by looking
Mhm.
at MVVM and all. Because let's say there is an entry level developer, we can say like that XYZ person has no knowledge of architecture, like what exactly it
Mhm.
is and why it is used. So what happens? People directly start jumping on this architecture things without understanding
Yeah.
why it is required and what is it.
Yes.
So for example, when I was doing this, when I was developing Android apps and publishing, I never followed any architecture in that.
Okay.
Obviously, I was also new, and at that time,
Uh-huh.
I was not aware about advantages of architecture. Let's say whatever
Mhm.
applications are live on Play Store of mine, they have zero architecture. Everything is written inside activity, right? But why I know importance of architecture, it's just because of that I didn't follow architecture earlier, right?
Uh-huh.
If I don't do mistakes, how can I learn from it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would recommend that do mistakes in order
Mhm.
to know importance of architecture. Build applications without architecture first, then
Mhm.
start about reading architectures, like then start getting what architectures do. Then only you will understand why architecture is important and why
Mhm.
like how it can help teams to, because obviously like there is a lot of difference in developing individually and developing something with team.
Mhm.
So if we are doing teamwork, then why architecture is important? So these things are only understandable if you are doing mistakes. But right now, thing is like
Mhm.
people are afraid of doing mistakes, and that's bad actually. I would say do mistakes,
Yeah.
and then only you can learn.
Yeah. Completely agree with that.
So
Uh,
yeah, then when I started learning MVVM and all from Google sources,
mhm.
like Google official projects, then I came to know, okay, yeah, this is how data should flow, like unidirectional.
Mhm.
There was terminology like unidirectional data flow, like
Yes.
data should
Yes.
flow from UI, then view model, then your data
Mhm.
sources, and come back from sources view model to UI. Then I
Mhm.
learned how easy it is to manage your all things with the reactive pattern. Then
Mhm.
like how can you easily manage state with that, which was not possible with implementing everything in architecture, because sorry, activity. Because in activity
Mhm.
what happens, you like then if else nested chain begins, and you can just
Yes.
you just end up writing everything inside one class. And let's say if you have to add new feature, you will need to copy paste same things everywhere else. And
Yeah.
this is where architecture helps, that you can write a common code here without touching the main UI code. So this is
Mhm.
how, obviously these are only realized when you have earlier done mistakes.
Yes.
So yeah, and this is how I started getting into architecture. I started reading a lot of blogs. Obviously, like
Mhm.
architecture is a thing which is not available officially anywhere, right? Now it is. At that time, it was not there.
Yes. Yes.
So opinionated blogs were good to go things. like you also written a lot of architecture blogs, right? I used to
Yes.
read them, and then other blogs. So this is how I. And about system design, I would say system design as a general thing, I'm just saying,
Mm-hmm.
let it be Android or let it be
Yeah.
backend, etc. So in order to know the system design, I think everyone should have basic understanding of how internal
Mm-hmm.
system work. For example, we should know how operating system works, how they
Yeah.
multiprocessing, threading, how
Mm-hmm.
basically they manage memory, then
Yeah.
databases, how networking concepts like how DNS is resolved and all everything.
Mm-hmm.
So once you know the basics, you can, I think, design any kind of system, whether it is Android backend or front end,
Yeah.
right? Because for Android is operating system, so obviously you should know how operating system works. Then
Mm-hmm.
web development is basically, obviously web also runs on some OS. Then it has some network concepts. Then
Mm-hmm.
databases involved in. So, so in order, the very basic step is to understand the basics, which we are taught in
Mm-hmm.
diploma or engineering, whatever. They really
Yeah.
help. I used to think like they are useless, but now I realize that it is a useful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can learn from, obviously architecture is a thing which is nowhere standardly written. So you always need to have your own opinions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for example, there is nothing fixed about architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this? Because
Yeah,
it is completely
I
open
think
ended.
architecture is depends a lot on the projects you are working on, the teams you are working with. So architecture decision is not that just do this and it will be great. It's
Correct,
never that.
correct, correct,
It depends. There are a lot of considerations you need to take before deciding on architecture or even architecture pattern. And yeah, architecture pattern is not architecture, right?
correct, correct. Yeah,
Architecture pattern is just a pattern. Uh, Especially for Android, architecture patterns are just a pattern to manage the presentation layer uh, and UI layer of your architecture, which is part of the architecture, but never the full architecture. Right.
correct,
So
correct.
yeah, and I believe you need to have a thorough understanding of the entire scope, not only your teams and projects, but also what do you want to achieve. And
Right, right.
then you need understanding of threading, you need understanding of process management, for Android. On backend, you need understanding of how scaling works, right?
Correct, correct, correct. So
So
yeah,
yeah.
then we can say like we can learn from experts. Like we should follow good people on social media
Mhm.
who talks about this architecture things, publish
Yeah.
regular blogs. Or there are, I guess,
I am like plugin here. So another person who is very famous for talking on system design, architectures, and LLD, HLD. I am interviewing him as well. So yeah, subscribe.
okay. So I
Yeah.
guess a lot of companies do publish their
Mhm.
this thing case studies and all about
Yes.
architectures. We should read them like Netflix, and I guess some people do.
Mhm.
Okay. Then I guess open source is a great power to learn things. Like there
Yeah.
are a lot of systems are open source, like Signal app, Telegram
Yes.
application,
Yes.
and a lot of good applications. Like there are tremendous
Mhm.
applications. Even Google has everything open source, right?
Yes.
So then open source was something which helped me to learn a lot of about architectures. Like reading code is
Mhm.
a good quality, I would say, and I do often. Like whoever publishes
Okay.
new project on GitHub from our connections or let's say big projects,
Mhm.
I always read them just to know
Okay.
like how they implemented XYZ with what ABC methodology and all.
Mhm.
So that helped me to get into insights of this.
Okay. Cool. Now, let's talk about testing and TDD.
Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, testing is a really great thing. So I would like say uh, I would say one thing like when I first heard about testing in my career, I was also like, why we have to write test for a code which like why we have to write a code for the code which we have already written?
Yeah.
Because I guess everyone thinks like that. But
Yes.
then it was a kind of a superstition, I would say.
Hmm.
Then later, uh, so I first started writing tests when I was in a startup company that in
Mhm.
my initial days. So Like we have some code coverage rule that whatever we are raising, it should be 80% or some percent
Mm-hmm.
unit tested. And then I learned importance of testing, like how test really helps you, like how
Mm-hmm.
can you early detect bugs, and then TDD cycle
Yeah.
as well. Like how can
Yeah.
you write test first and then implement something later. So
Mm-hmm.
TDD, I advocate these things actually right now, like how
Yeah.
TDD can easily help you detect your bugs earlier. How can they
Yes.
allow you? So when you write a TDD first code, it allows you to, it enforces you to write a good code, well architected code.
Yeah.
Like there is no scope for architectural mistakes when you are doing TDD, right?
Yes. Yes. Completely
You end
agreed.
you end up writing maintainable code,
Yeah.
and people think testing slows down their development speed, but that's not the case, because ultimately it is avoiding your future potential bugs,
Yeah.
right? Just like whenever new baby is born, even that
Mm-hmm.
baby is not having any disease, we inject them some syringes, right?
Vaccines. Yeah.
Vaccines, yeah, vaccines for future diseases, so that
Yeah.
this disease won't infect that baby. Testing is like that. Future bugs are basically killed at the development time itself. So
Yeah.
TDD is like that, and I think everyone should think of doing, if not TDD, at least testing. TDD
Yes.
is basically not a skill, I guess. It is a habit, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Trade is completely a habit, right?
Yeah,
And I have seen people fear in name of TD, and even I used to fear TD, right?
yeah, everyone, I guess,
But
every
then
developer.
I forced myself to follow TD for a few features I was doing in a project, right? uh, I was like, let's see how it works, right? Initially, I didn't know how to write test case without your code first. Like, how does it work? Then I learned, okay, you do, it's not like you are writing test before your code. It's like you are creating an interface, then you do the system like
Design,
you
yeah,
like do the design how the code will flow and all that we anyway do, right? Some do in pen and paper,
yeah,
some create diagrams for it, and then we write the code, right? So yeah,
right, right,
before there's another step before that, that yeah, now you have designed the system, you have in your mind that what's gonna happen, write the test now. You
yeah,
have
correct,
interfaces, you write the test will fail, now write the code, and see test pass one by one, right? You first implement something, one test passes, then you implement something, another test passes, and
yeah,
it's not like it's a rigid thing. So while implementing, if you change, okay, this doesn't work, I want to change the behavior to a little bit to this, right? You can adjust your test then, right? You can update that test and then you can write. So yeah, this is all I learned when I force myself to practice, and it's very simple and it's nothing super difficult or something, right?
right, right. And
And
when we say, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
please continue.
yeah, and when we say, like, let's say testing slows you down, but ultimately
Mhm.
it helps you in fast debugging basically. Because
Yeah,
let's say if there is
see,
a case you have to reproduce, you can just write a failing test for that, and
yeah,
you can just work till that test passes, and this is how you solve your bug. For example, if
yes,
any bug occurs even after you write test, it means that you have missed that case.
yes, yes, exactly.
And in
And
that case, yeah,
I have seen teams like say release was planned on Monday, and at the last moment they find lots of bugs,
yeah,
and the release is pushed to next Monday. Right? I have seen things like this happen, and I do believe strongly that having a good test coverage and practicing writing tests initially, and then slowly starting to practice TDD will help a lot. And just like TDD, testing is also a habit, right? First, you
right,
need to learn few things like how to write tests. Yeah, unit test specifically is very straightforward and simple. So yeah, you first learn a little bit, and then you can easily write tests and unit tests. And I would recommend avoiding instrumentations in unit tests. Some people I have seen
hmm,
doing that.
yeah,
uh, those become unmaintainable tests, and then it really slows you down.
correct, correct,
So yeah, keep your unit test simple. Just think of it like it's in JVM, uh, plain Java unit test. Think of it like that. So
right,
that
right,
way, you can move faster. Instrumentation is also required. When you are writing UI, use instrumentation to test your UI. But yeah, think of them when you are writing UI tests, think of them as units,
Correct,
UI
correct.
units you are testing, right?
Then
So
again, there are some
yeah,
best practices associated with testing as well. For
yes,
example, if
yes,
you're writing or using a lot of mocks, for example, nesting of
yeah,
mocks, then again your test becomes inconsistent or something like that.
exactly.
Even if your test passing, there might be some bugs inside it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion on mocking versus faking. So yeah, once you practice testing regularly, you will become interested in that, and then you
yeah,
can read on. And I have my own opinions on mocking versus faking. You also have your own now. And yeah, there are a lot of opinionated people on mocking versus faking on online community. So yeah, once you start doing this, you will be interested in that, and then you can keep learning on this as well, right?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Again, here like that mistake wala rule applies here as well. Like do as
yes,
many mistakes
yes,
as you can do, and then only you will understand the benefits of testing.
yeah, completely agreed. Now, let's come to Jetpack Compose.
Okay.
So I already know, and I think my viewers already know that you are a fan of Jetpack Compose. You keep getting a lot of new repositories on it. So let's start with an uneasy question first.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think is lacking currently in Jetpack Compose?
Currently, so Jetpack Compose is very new right now. Like I guess it
Yes.
just 2 years, 2021. Yeah, 2 years
Hmm.
for now.
Yeah.
And some things at the first glance, Jetpack Compose looks very easy. Okay,
Yeah.
you just have to use this and blah, like it happens. You don't need to custom use and all. But when you need to do complex things, then you understand how complex it is to perform in Jetpack Compose, like custom
Yeah.
modifiers and all. That's I guess
Mhm.
even harder than custom views. And
Yeah.
sometimes even doing that things performance somehow like is not exactly as our legacy implementation, like views with views and all. So I guess currently Jetpack Compose is lacking that fit, but I strongly believe that in future it will be
Yeah.
improved.
Yeah. So,
Obviously we should give it a time. It is just a two
yeah.
years old.
So when they first released Jetpack Compose, they like 1.0.0 version, they openly said that, hey, performance is not our focus right now. We want to get our APIs to stable. And recently they started working on performance,
Yeah.
and we can already see the impact, right? So the recent updates they did on how modifiers work,
Hmm.
recent API changes without actually like changing the API for developers,
Public
right?
API, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, without actually changing the public APIs. Recent changes on the implementations was really good, and I ran a few tests to see the performance improvements, and it was truly impeccable, right? Performance is really improved with the new ones, and they are continuing work on a performance. So I think it is improving, and on that I feel another thing, right? So Jetpack Compose, like you just us Android developers, we come from an imperative world,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
With XML and all. If you look at web developers, they are really familiar with declarative UI. And if you teach basics of Android and Jetpack Compose to a web developer, you will see they are writing more performant Compose code than us.
Yeah.
That's because they are used to thinking in a declarative way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they might not know how some APIs work. On that, they will need our help, but they know how to organize your UI code in a declarative manner, and how to look for performance glitches and things like that, right?
Correct, correct. Because yeah,
So yeah,
Jetpack Compose is evolved from React pattern actually.
yes,
Because I
yes,
guess React
yes.
is the one who founded this or
Yeah, React.
introduced
I think all other declarative UI framework is inspired either directly or indirectly
React.
by React. So
Even
yeah, and
Googlers say, I guess, that when they have to develop this framework, I guess they hired developers from React only.
yes, yes, they hired few developers from React, and yeah, they are still working on Compose.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a really good thing. Now, uh, we talked about the things that are evolving into Compose, not at there yet. Now let's talk about what do you like. base our Compose? Like, what got you so interested in Jetpack Compose?
So yeah, Jetpack Compose, first of all, it is very easy for some things.
Yes.
Let's say I was not fan of developing, like, fan as in like I was not interested in developing custom views with Vue, like
Hmm.
extending Vue class
Yes.
and on draw
Yeah.
method,
Yeah.
canvas, etc. Basically, I'm not a UI guy kind of thing. I'm
Same here.
more into architecture and all. I
Yeah.
When UI and animation comes, I'm very boring person basically.
Hmm.
But in Jetpack Compose, it all is very easy. Like
Yeah.
complex animations can be easily made, and then this custom use kind of things. Like you can just create custom shapes and all, like, or
Hmm.
even more complex UI very easily in Jetpack Compose. So that fascinated me, and I like that in Jetpack Compose. Like, how can you bring, let's say, something is written in custom view, might be of, let's say, 500 lines of code. That is
Hmm.
easily possible in Jetpack Compose with just few lines of code.
Hmm.
So I liked it in Jetpack Compose. For example, you can see for applying circular shape to image, there was a library
Yeah.
in view
Yeah.
system. And
Yes.
now in Jetpack Compose, it is simple, like just clip and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So that was beauty
Uh,
of Jetpack Compose, and I guess it is gonna be life changing for developers.
Yes, completely agreed on that. So, how I got interested is that I initially played a little bit with React and declarative UI, other web declarative UI frameworks, a little bit for my personal projects earlier in the days. And then I was taken into uh, user research by Google while I was working at Byju's. And there I first got a glimpse of Jetpack Compose and I loved it. I loved it instantly. Like, okay, yeah, now these are the advanced stuff coming
Yeah.
to Android, right? I always like, I never liked XML. I can say it openly now, right?
Hmm.
I used to say it earlier as well. Like, if you like while working on projects, I used to say to my peers that, hey, UI work I would like to avoid. Give me something else. If you get no one else, I can do it. But yeah, I kind of avoided UI work. Now I don't as much.
Hmm.
Right. So yeah, I that's how I started on Jetpack Compose, and I love Jetpack Compose for. Okay.
Nice.
Uh, Now, coming to GD, right? You are a GD, and I think you became a GD quite early, right? So, what was the process like for you?
Process was like very simple, as it is right now as well.
Mhm.
I was a final year student at that time.
Yeah.
Like my university exams were remaining, last final exams, and I got a call from existing GD, Himanshu.
Yeah,
Like
I
he
know.
approached me that, hey, you want to be GD? And I was like, my first question to him was like, yeah, like how I can be GD? Like I haven't even reached that. Like I don't consider myself as a that guy who
Okay.
who's expert or something like that. So I was like, so he explained me like you are already doing that work and all.
Hmm.
So, because I was lacking in confidence at the time
Yes.
in everything. So basically, he told me that whatever you're doing is work who GD does and all.
Hmm.
Like I was doing open source talks and then
Yeah.
articles, everything. So he said that's what GD do. You don't have to do additional things.
Hmm.
Then there were two interviews for GD.
Yes.
First one is the normal interview by existing
Hmm.
GD in some other
Yeah.
country, where like GD thing is very like country
Community interview.
community
Yeah.
specific, right? So
Yeah.
community centric interview and then product interview by
Yes.
actual Googler,
Yeah.
whether in which they check whether we already have good
Depth
product knowledge or
understanding or
not.
not. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So yeah, that's all, and that's how I became GT.
Yeah, and what do you recommend for people who want to become GD? So who want to become GD? Sorry.
Yeah,
What's your recommendation for them?
yeah. ISPE, like I have some different take. Like I would
Hmm.
say, don't even think of being GD. If you're
Exactly. Yeah.
applicable, you will automatically get that opportunity. Because personally, for me, it was never like that. I was like BE GDE was never in my to-do list or in my wish list.
Yeah.
It automatically happened when I was doing work because let's say if I'm writing blogs and open source, doing open source, it is not for something like I will get something out of it. It is a
Yeah. Yeah.
selfless, right? Because I
Hmm.
have interest in it, and maybe whatever how what we think, like someone will get benefit of it.
Yes.
So it should be a selfless feeling, and I guess people should focus on that contribution, and if they are eligible, they will automatically get opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
do
completely agree
community
on that.
contributions. Yeah,
I would not say the contributions we do are completely selfless. We do these contributions so that we don't feel alone. We work like we want more people to think about this stuff, right? Think
right.
about architecture, think about testing, think about performance, uh, and that makes our jobs easier, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
when we work in a team where everyone thinks about these things, so it becomes easier to work on as a team. So yeah, it's not completely selfless, but yeah, it's not for becoming a
Uh,
GD
yeah,
and not for getting something out of it, right? It's like a way to improve the community so that we can work better together,
yeah, correct.
right?
And
So
actually, there are a lot of misconceptions. Like people think GD is a job thing, all right? Because I
mhm.
believe you might be also getting a lot of DMs on
Yes,
LinkedIn, like how to be GD.
yes,
Like I
yes.
even I get that because that's why I'm assuming like you might be getting more like
Yeah.
in a day
Yeah.
because you are GD since very long time, and so there are a lot of misconceptions that people directly ask like, hey, I want to apply for GD and without. So I would recommend like do community contributions first, and if you're eligible, you automatically get that opportunity.
Yes, yes. So if you keep contributing well in community, like either open source or blogs or talks, any one of them or a mixture of them is fine. So yeah, if you continue doing that, then someone will reach out to you. It might be me, it
Hmm.
might be some other GD, or it might be some Googlers, right?
Yeah.
They will reach out to you and they will ask if you want to apply, and then like for preparing for interviews and preparing your resume for that, we can help with that. But before that, you need to show something for yourself, right?
Right. Right.
And don't do it for becoming a GD. That never works.
Yeah.
Do
Correct.
it for like helping the community. When I first started, like I directly started as an engineer after diploma, right? I never did
Mm-hmm.
a engineering degree or something.
Yeah.
So I initially found getting a job and becoming better was really difficult. And then in the initial startups in Kolkata I worked on, in most of the cases I was the senior most guy. Even though I was a junior at that time, I was the senior most guy. So that's when I started talking about it, so that I like again what I said, so that people start thinking about uh, some other stuff than just getting the stuff done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was like that in most of the cases in back when I initially started. And then I got opportunity to work with great people, great engineers, and I learned a lot from them. And as I learned, I kept uh, putting it back to the community by either books or blogs or some videos. Now I am doing these interviews, so people learn from others on how they learned, right?
Mm, correct.
So yeah, now that's the purpose of it, and yeah, that's why you should do this, not to get something out of it, or not to uh, get a tag. That never
Right. Right.
works.
Right.
And GD tag is also like it can be taken back anytime, right? Google can decide to take it back from me any day, take it back from Shreyas any day, and
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing
that
is
doesn't
permanent.
mean that we'll stop contributing. If that happens, uh, it's not that we'll stop contributing. We never did it for GD, and it
Correct.
doesn't matter whether we have the tag or not. Yes, having the tag helps us do some things. For example, how Google supports us on some travel and getting connected to community organizers and all. That obviously helps in what we do, but it's not about that tag.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And also, like
Uh,
if someone is really interested, I guess Google has recently launched a program, Road to GDE program.
yes, yes.
So
That Road to GT program is also very nice. I was involved in mentoring on a couple of uh, instances of that program, right?
yeah.
So yeah, there as well, you need to something that you have already done at least a few blogs or something. You worked on some uh, open source code or something. Then you get eligible to apply for Road to GDE, and then we help you become better at contributing, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's also a really good program. So if you're interested, do some community work and then apply for Road to GDE. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Shesh, I think we discussed about all the stuffs I wanted to discuss. Thanks again for joining, and it was very nice discussing these things with you. I think I talked a lot in this interview.
No,
Generally, I just take opinions, I don't give. But yeah, yeah, I eventually gave opinions as well. So
no,
yeah,
it was good. Like, okay, thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed. Like, I don't know how time like went. I guess 1 hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it
It's
was nice time.
yeah, yeah. It was very nice talking to you. Thanks again. And viewers, if you like this content, please subscribe. I will keep publishing these contents. And as I said, few more experts on architecture and system designs are coming. So yeah, subscribe and turn that bell notification on. And I hope you won't be disappointed. Cool. Thanks everyone.